Welcome back, everyone. This is part two of my interview with candidate for the 21st Congressional seat, Dylan Ratigan. Welcome back.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too. Hey, in part one, we discussed his background. And in part two here, we're going to talk more specifically about what Dylan would like to do for the constituents of the 21st Congressional District. Just want to recap a little bit in case somebody's just catching this. Why are you doing this? Why are you running?
My heart is broken.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Explain that.
I was 8 years old. We beat the Russians. I was living in Saranac Lake.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to really live a dream. Moved to New York, had very incredible experiences, learned incredible things, sort of lived the American dream. I'm a child of a single mother from upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
When I realized that that dream has been put at risk because of a severely broken political system that explicitly works against the interest of fairness, against the interests of the voter or the people who live in this country, and works explicitly for the interests of giant banks, giant weapons companies, giant drug companies, which is something that became crystal clear for me when I was working at CNBC during the financial crisis.
Right, sure.
That broke my heart, and over the past 10 years I have been working to advance reform and opportunity in any way that I can, and the decision to make myself a candidate in this race is the culmination of all that work.
I've got it. Now, there's a lot more detail about what Dylan is talking about in part one. You can go to our website to see part one. What I'd like to do is, you grew up here, Saranac, single mom, you know the area well, you love it. When I asked Dylan what was the thing he loved about it the most, he said nature. You know, when you live up here, that means something. This area means something. One of the most beautiful areas in the world. If you've traveled,
on the whole earth.
This is on the whole earth. Let's drill down. You're saying there's a disconnect between the voters and government, driven primarily, no surprise here, driven by greed. Could be corporate greed, could be whatever, could be gerrymandering, could be anything. Yeah, any number of different factors which just protect that political status quo.
Sure.
We're going to break that. If you were to look at the 21st Congressional District, the research you've done, what are you seeing? What are going to be your priorities? What are you going to aim at?
The obvious opportunity with credible representation of upstate New York is to stop with the abuse of our people at the hands of our government. We don't have the broadband access, which is sort of the obvious call.
Right,
but 3 out of 5 people in the district are at or below the poverty line.
I know.
That's a function of policy. That's not a function of happenstance.
That's right.
Upstate New York is used as a back office for Quebec and Vermont. That also needs to stop. There is an opportunity that is before us right now to take the 21st District of New York into the 21st century. What does that mean? It means understanding how we make our money right now and what we have to offer to the world. We have $600 million in dairy, and it's struggling terribly.
It is struggling.
The ability to boot, you know who makes Cabot Vermont cheddar cheese?
No.
Upstate New York. It's not even made in Vermont. The ability to increase our revenue per cow. The ability to increase our revenue per apple. The ability to increase our revenue per hotel room, the ability to increase our revenue per square foot of commercial space, the ability to become a renewable power provider to the entire Northeast off of the St. Lawrence River. There are so many assets in place that can be developed directly. At the same time, understanding finance the way that I do, given the opportunity to sit on the House Finance Committee, the only focus that I have is the creation of a national infrastructure bank, which is something that I've been calling for over a decade. The reason America is what it is right now is because of the infrastructure bank that supported Dwight Eisenhower after World War II to establish the power generation systems that we rely on to this day, to establish the highway system that we rely on to this day. It is time for another infrastructure bank that can drive the transition in upstate New York and really across the country into the 21st century, not just upgrading the infrastructure, but making the transitions that are necessary to improve everything that needs to be done to get off of fossil fuels and all the rest of it.
I've got it. A lot of reform in there, right?
Well, all of it is driven through reform. Redistricting has to be done. You cannot have a district that has Saratoga drawn out of it so that you can guarantee the Republicans have more votes. And that's
right.
across the country. You can't have a campaign finance system that's predicated on creating dark pools of money and these networks of money that explicitly control the policy agenda of politicians, and then the politicians keep their jobs because of the gerrymander.
Yes,
you take away the gerrymandering, your ability to keep your job while you're taking all that money is going to diminish significantly, because you don't need term limits. You need a redistricting, because you know what a term limit is? It's an election.
Yes,
but an election can only be a term limit if it functions in a way that has validity, which gerrymandering diminishes.
So I guess if you were to go to two other major areas there, you could talk about economy, the economic health, and the health of a community as well.
That's right. So, I mean, listen, the basis of the campaign is political reform, economy and money, both on the regional level and on a national level, and health.
Okay.
A civilized society does not deny access to health care to anyone.
That's absolutely true. Look at the Europeans.
Not to mention, we're at a moment in time where the need for our workforce to move around and adapt to take us to the 21st century is critical. And when you tie people's health insurance to their jobs, you make it very difficult for them, and some it's impossible, to move jobs in order to adapt and do what needs to be done. So crippling our workforce by attaching their health care to their job is actually putting our national security at risk, not to mention the costs associated with it. So, anyway, health, money, and reform is the basis of the campaign.
I've got you. Now, we have a primary coming up, Democratic primary.
June 26th.
June 26th is the primary. I really encourage you. What's the website?
DylanRatigan.com.
Okay, R-A-T, one T. Right?
That's one T.
DylanRatigan.com. I really encourage you to go to the website, find out about the platform, watch here on Look Media or anywhere else you want to watch, and find out when you're holding campaign events, find out when there could be debates, and you're welcome to come back here anytime.
Great.
And talk more about the platform, and as we learn more about it, we'll invite you back to talk more specifically about what you're finding out, okay?
Yeah.
Great to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
You as well.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.